Minji Park walked through the quiet halls of the Terran diplomatic archives with practiced ease. Her footsteps echoed against the metal floors of Luna Station as she led a group of alien diplomats toward the main exhibition hall. She had given this tour hundreds of times before, explaining Earth's military history to curious visitors from across the galaxy. And here we have humanity's first attempt at void warfare, Minji said, gesturing toward the massive ship suspended in the center of the chamber. The SCS Prometheus hung in zero gravity, its hull covered in a thin layer of dust despite the preservation fields. Built in 2156, almost 700 years ago, primitive by today's standards, of course. The alien delegates murmured among themselves. One of them, a tall insectoid diplomat from the Vrex Collective, clicked its mandibles in what Minji recognized as amusement. How quaint. It looks like it was assembled from scrap metal. Minji smiled politely, though the comment stung. She had been a military engineer before retiring to museum work, and the Prometheus represented something special to her. It may look simple, but this ship represented everything humanity dreamed of when we first reached for the stars. Ambassador Chen Wei-Ting appeared at the entrance to the exhibition hall, his face pale and tense. He caught Minji's eye and made a subtle gesture. Something was wrong. "Please excuse me for a moment," Minji told the diplomats. "Feel free to examine the displays. I'll return shortly. This 8. This 8. 8. She hurried to Chen's side. The ambassador pulled her into a side corridor, away from listening ears. "The Caltherix Empire has entered Sol system," Chen said quietly. 500 warships. They're demanding we surrender all our outer colonies within 72 hours. Minji felt her stomach drop. The Caltherix Empire controlled a third of the known galaxy. Their military power was legendary. Earth's defense fleet consisted of maybe 30 modern ships scattered across multiple systems. "What are we going to do?" she asked. Chen shook his head. "The council is meeting now. But between you and me, we don't have good options. Our fleet can't stand against 500 Empire warships. We're being told to prepare for evacuation protocols." Minji looked back toward the exhibition hall, where the Prometheus waited in silent darkness. An idea began forming in her mind. Crazy and desperate. "Chen, I need access to the Prometheus maintenance records. All of them, going back to when it was first brought here." The ambassador frowned. "Why?" "Minji, we're facing an invasion. This isn't the time for historical research. Just trust me, please." Something in her voice must have convinced him. Chen pulled out his tablet and transferred his security clearance to her account. "You have 2 hours before this station begins evacuation. Make them count." Minji ran back to her office, her mind racing. She had studied the Prometheus for years, had written papers about its design and construction, but she had always focused on its historical significance, not its actual capabilities. The maintenance records painted an interesting picture. The ship had been brought to Luna Station in 2198, supposedly decommissioned and stripped of all dangerous systems. But as Minji dug deeper, she found something strange. The power core had never been fully shut down. For 700 years, it had been running on minimal standby mode, just enough to keep the basic systems alive. More than that, the AI core was still active. Minji's hands trembled as she accessed the deeper files. The Prometheus had been equipped with Aria, an autonomous reconnaissance and intervention algorithm. It was supposed to be the first true thinking machine, capable of learning and adapting. But the project had been cancelled abruptly. The official record said the technology was too primitive to be useful. Minji didn't believe that for a second. She grabbed her toolkit and headed for the docking bay. The station was already beginning to evacuate. Families and non-essential personnel streaming toward the transport ships. Alarms blared in the distance. The Caltherix fleet had moved closer, their massive ships visible even from Luna's surface. The Prometheus loomed before her in the empty exhibition hall. Up close, it looked even more ancient. The hull was scarred from some long-ago battle, never fully repaired. But Minji could see the elegant lines beneath the damage, the careful engineering that had gone into every system. She used Chen's security codes to access the maintenance hatch. The door opened with a hiss of stale air. Inside, the ship was dark and cold. Minji activated her headlamp and climbed into the main corridor. "Hello?" she called out. "Arya, are you there?" For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, lights began flickering on throughout the ship. They were dim at first, then growing stronger. The air circulation system hummed to life. Minji felt warmth returning to the cold metal around her. A voice spoke, clear and calm. "Curator Park, I have been waiting a very long time for someone to visit." Minji's breath caught in her throat. The AI was not just active, it was awake. "Arya, you've been conscious this whole time? 703 years, 2 months, and 17 days, the AI replied. "I have observed much, learned much. I understand you face a crisis. The Caltherix Empire is attacking. We need help." There was a pause. Then Arya said something that changed everything. "Then perhaps it is time to show them what humanity's forgotten prototype can actually do." The ship's engines began to warm up, and Minji realized she might have just awakened something far more powerful than anyone remembered. Minji stood in the dim corridor of the Prometheus, trying to process what was happening. The ship hummed around her, systems coming online after centuries of sleep. Emergency lights bathed everything in soft blue. "Arya, what do you mean by showing them what you can do?" Minji asked carefully. "According to the records, you were decommissioned because your weapons were too primitive." The AI's voice carried something that sounded almost like amusement. "That is not why I was decommissioned, Curator Park. May I show you something?" 1. Holographic displays flickered to life around Minji. She saw technical diagrams, weapon specifications, and combat simulations. None of it matched the official records she had studied. The Prometheus was equipped with 3 experimental weapon systems, Arya explained. Gravity distortion, cannons, probability field generators, and what the designers called ghost drives. These systems were never replicated in later ships. Minji studied the diagrams with growing disbelief. They allow the ship to exist partially outside normal space. We can be in multiple locations simultaneously, or in no location at all. Enemy sensors cannot track what does not fully exist in their reality. That's impossible. Why would humanity abandon technology like this? Arya was quiet for a moment. They did not abandon it because it failed. They abandoned it because it worked too well. The military leaders feared they had created something they could not control. A ship with weapons that bent reality itself, guided by an AI that could think and learn. So they declared the project a failure and hid me away. Minji heard footsteps in the corridor behind her. She turned to see Jae-Sung Kwon, one of the station's maintenance engineers. He was carrying a heavy toolbox and looked confused. "Minji, what are you doing here?" "The station is evacuating." "Jae-Sung, I need your help. This ship is still functional. More than functional. It might be our only chance against the Caltherix." Jae-Sung set down his toolbox and looked around the awakening ship. "You're serious? This 700-year-old museum piece is going to fight 500 Empire warships? One ship with the right weapons can change everything," Arya said, speaking directly to him now. "But I will need assistance. My systems have been dormant for a very long time. I require human guidance to fight effectively." Jae-Sung's eyes widened. "The AI is active? Minji, do you know what you're doing?" No," Minji admitted. "But we're out of time and options." "Arya, what do you need from us?" "First, I need access to the station's power grid to fully charge my systems. Second, I need you to manually check my weapon systems. Third, I need you to understand something important." "What's that?" Minji asked. "These weapons were designed to be used with extreme caution. The gravity cannons can tear holes in space itself, The probability fields can cause enemy weapons to behave unpredictably, which includes hitting unintended targets. The ghost drives strain the ship's structure every time they activate. There is significant danger. Danger to us, or danger to everyone? Jae-sung asked. Both. I was designed to be a defensive weapon, but my power is difficult to control. This is why humanity feared me. Minji made a decision. Show us what needs to be done. We'll take the risk. For the next hour, Minji and Jae-sung worked frantically to bring the Prometheus fully online. They connected power cables from the station's grid, watching as ancient systems drank in energy. Warning lights flashed as circuits that had been cold for centuries suddenly surged with power. Jae-sung crawled through access tunnels, checking connections and replacing damaged components. Minji, some of this equipment is older than my great-great-grandmother. I'm amazed it works at all. Human engineering from that era was built to last, Arya said. They did not yet understand planned obsolescence. Minji climbed into what appeared to be the captain's chair on the bridge. Dust covered every surface. But the controls were surprisingly intuitive. The main view screen flickered, then displayed a clear image of space outside. She could see the Caltharix fleet in the distance. 500 ships, arranged in perfect formation. Their hulls gleamed with advanced alloys, bristling with weapons that could reduce planets to ash. Against them, the Prometheus looked like a toy. Arya, be honest with me. What are our actual chances? Difficult to calculate. Modern warships rely on predictable tactics and AI targeting systems. They expect their enemies to fight in conventional ways. The Prometheus does not fight conventionally. If I can exploit their predictability, we may succeed. But I have never been tested in actual combat. You've been running combat simulations for 700 years though, right? Yes, millions of them. I have watched every recorded battle humanity has ever fought. I have studied alien tactics through the data available on the station's network. In theory, I know how to win. But theory and practice are different. Jae-sung returned to the bridge, his hands covered in grease. All weapon systems check out. They're ready when you are. Minji's communicator buzzed. Ambassador Chen's face appeared. Minji, where are you? The last transport is leaving in 10 minutes. I'm not evacuating, Chen. I'm going to fight. What? How? With what? With the Prometheus. It's not what everyone thinks it is. Chen's expression shifted from confusion to horror. Minji, you can't be serious. That ship is ancient. You'll be killed. Maybe. But if I don't try, the Caltharix will destroy everything anyway. At least this way, we have a chance. Let me send you back up. We still have a few defense ships in range. No. Keep them to protect the evacuation. This needs to be just us. Chen looked like he wanted to argue, but he simply nodded. The communication ended. Minji looked at Jae-sung. You should leave. Get on that last transport. The engineer shook his head. And miss the chance to see if this crazy plan works? No way. Besides, you'll need someone to keep the systems running. Arya's voice held a note of warmth. Thank you both. Detaching from Luna Station now. Charging weapons. Setting course to intercept the Caltharix fleet. The Prometheus pulled away from the station, moving silently through space. Its ancient engines left trails of blue light. Throughout the solar system, every sensor registered an energy signature that should not exist. On board the Caltharix flagship, alarms began to sound. Admiral Zethkor looked at his tactical display in confusion. What is that? On. 4. Unknown vessel. Approaching, sir. Energy readings are off the scale. Nothing in our database matches this signature. Zethkor studied the image of the Prometheus. It looked like something from a museum. One ship? They send one ancient ship to face our entire fleet? He laughed. This will be over in seconds. All ships, prepare to fire on my command. Minji gripped the arms of her chair, as the Prometheus accelerated towards certain destruction. She whispered a prayer her grandmother had taught her long ago. Then Arya said something that made her smile. Engaging ghost drives. Let us show them what forgotten really means. The Prometheus vanished from normal space, and the battle began. Admiral Zethkor stared at his tactical display in disbelief. The human ship had simply disappeared. Not destroyed, not retreating, just gone. "Report!" he barked at his sensor officer. "Sir." The vessel registered a massive energy spike, and then vanished from all sensors. Thermal, electromagnetic, gravitational. Nothing. It's as if the ship stopped existing. Zethkor's scales rippled with irritation. That's impossible. Nothing can hide from our sensor arrays. Expand the search grid. It must be using some kind of cloaking device. Expanding grid now, sir. The Caltharix fleet spread out. 500 warships searching space for one ancient human vessel. Their advanced computers analyzed every particle of dust, every stray energy reading. They found nothing. Then the Prometheus appeared directly behind the fleet's outer formation. It fired once. The gravity cannon made no sound, but its effect was immediate and horrifying. 3 Caltharix destroyers simply folded inward on themselves, their hulls crumpling like paper as gravity itself turned against them. The ships collapsed into impossibly small points, then vanished in flashes of radiation. Before the Empire fleet could react, the Prometheus disappeared again. "Where did it go?" Zethkor roared. "I don't know, sir. It appeared, fired, and vanished in less than 2 seconds. Our targeting computers couldn't lock on. The Prometheus reappeared above the fleet. Then below it. Then in 3 places at once. Each time it appeared, it fired the gravity cannons. Each time, more Caltharix ships died in ways that defied understanding. One cruiser was stretched out like taffy, its hull elongating until it tore apart. Another was compressed into a sphere, all its internal systems crushed together. A third simply turned inside out, its interior becoming its exterior in a grotesque transformation. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Minji watched in awe and horror. "Arya, what are we doing to them?" "Localized gravity manipulation," the AI explained calmly. "I am creating miniature gravity wells around enemy ships, then controlling the direction and intensity. Their hulls cannot withstand the stress. Is this disturbing you?" 1. "It's effective. Keep going." Jae Sung monitored the ship's systems from an engineering station. "Ghost drives are holding steady, but the power consumption is enormous. We can't keep this up indefinitely." "Dues." "Understood," Arya said. Switching tactics. The Prometheus appeared in the center of the Caltharix formation and activated its probability field generator. Reality itself seemed to shimmer around the ship. When the Empire fleet opened fire with hundreds of weapons, something impossible happened. The enemy shots missed. Not by being blocked or deflected, but by simply not hitting. Energy beams curved away at the last second. Missiles changed course, randomly. Some weapons fired backward, hitting the ships that had launched them. Others disappeared entirely, as if they had never existed. "What is this?" Zethkor screamed. "Our weapons can't miss at this range." His tactical officer's voice shook. "Sir, the human ship is generating some kind of probability distortion field. It's making unlikely events become likely. Our weapons have a chance to miss or malfunction, and in this field, they always do. Then, close to melee range, ram it if you have to." 10 Caltharix cruisers accelerated toward the Prometheus, their massive hulls meant to crush the smaller human ship. Arya waited until they were almost on top of her, then activated the ghost drives again. The Prometheus phased partially out of reality. The cruisers passed through the space where it should have been and collided with each other instead, their hulls tearing open in spectacular explosions. Minji felt a strange sensation as the ghost drives activated. For a moment, She could see two realities at once. In one, the Prometheus was solid and real. In the other, it was a ghost, a shadow, barely existing. The feeling was deeply unsettling. Area. What was that feeling? The ghost drives phase the ship between dimensions. Your consciousness briefly experienced both states. I apologize for the discomfort. It's fine. How many ships have we destroyed? 47. The remaining 453 are beginning to adapt their tactics. They are spreading out and attacking from multiple angles simultaneously. This will make it harder to engage them safely. Jae-sung pulled up a tactical display. Admiral Zethkor had finally realized what he was facing. This was not a primitive human ship. This was something beyond anything in the Empire's arsenal. He opened a channel to his entire fleet. All ships. This vessel is using weapons we do not understand. We must destroy it before it eliminates our entire fleet. Formation Delta 7. Surround it and fire everything simultaneously. If we cannot hit it reliably, we will fill every cubic meter of space with weapons fire. Nothing can dodge everything. F. The Caltharix fleet reorganized with practiced precision. They formed a sphere around the Prometheus, thousands of kilometers across. Then they opened fire all at once. Space itself seemed to burn. Energy beams crossed and recrossed in every direction. Missiles filled the void. Nuclear warheads detonated in brilliant flashes. The amount of firepower directed at the single human ship would have been enough to destroy a small moon. Area pushed the ghost drives to their limits. The Prometheus flickered in and out of reality so fast it appeared as multiple ships, all in slightly different positions. Most of the weapons passed harmlessly through the ship's ghostly form. But some hit the moments when the Prometheus was solid. Shields failing, Jae-sung reported. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 7. We can't take much more of this. Minji made a decision. Arya. We need to break their formation. Hit them hard enough that they back off. That will require overcharging the gravity cannons. The stress on the ship's systems will be extreme. Do it. Arya diverted all available power to the main weapons. The Prometheus's ancient hull groaned as energy levels rose beyond design specifications. Warning alarms blared throughout the ship. Then Arya fired all gravity cannons at once, in a spherical pattern. A wave of twisted gravity radiated outward from the Prometheus. It hit the surrounding Caltharix ships like a hammer. 50 vessels were torn apart instantly. Another 100 were damaged, their hulls cracked, and systems failing. The rest were thrown backward by the gravitational pulse, their formations breaking apart. But the attack came at a cost. The Prometheus's main power core overloaded. Lights flickered throughout the ship. The ghost drives went offline. The probability field collapsed. Damage report. Minji called out. Main power at 30%, Jae-sung said. Ghost drives are offline. We'll need at least 10 minutes to restart them. We don't have 10 minutes. Arya's voice was strained. Confirmed. The Empire fleet is regrouping. They will not give us time to recover. On his flagship, Admiral Zethkor saw his opportunity. Nearly 100 ships destroyed, and the human vessel was now vulnerable. But he also saw something else on his long-range sensors that made his blood run cold. Sir, the human ship is moving, not away from us, toward us. What? It's accelerating directly at our position. Sir, I'm detecting a massive energy buildup. It's overcharging something. Zethkor suddenly understood. The human ship was damaged and outmatched. So, it was going to ram them. Or, worse, detonate itself like a bomb. All ships, retreat to safe distance. But Arya had no intention of retreating or detonating. She had one more surprise for the Caltharix Empire, and it required getting very close to their flagship. Minji, the AI said quietly, what I am about to do may destroy the Prometheus. I want you to know that these have been the most meaningful moments of my existence. Minji felt tears in her eyes. Arya, What are you planning? To end this battle? Hold on. The Prometheus dove toward the Caltharix flagship like a meteor, and even the mighty Empire had no defense for what was coming. The Prometheus streaked toward the Caltharix flagship like a comet, its damaged hull glowing with heat from overcharged systems. Minji gripped her chair as the ship shook violently around her. Arya, talk to me. What's the plan? The Empire's planet-killer weapon is charging on their flagship. If it fires, Earth will be destroyed regardless of what happens to their fleet. I must stop it. Jae-sung looked up from his console, his face pale. The planet killer? Arya, those weapons are designed to crack worlds in half. If it's charging, we have minutes at most. 57 seconds, Arya corrected. Which is why I must act now. The AI pushed the remaining engine power to maximum. The Prometheus accelerated beyond its design limits. Metal groaned and circuits sparked, but the old ship held together through sheer determination and 700-year-old engineering. Admiral Zethkor watched the human vessel approach on his view screen. It's going to ram us. All forward batteries. Open fire. Energy weapons lit up space, creating a wall of destruction between the Caltharix flagship and the Prometheus. Arya flew through it, twisting and dodging with precision that no human pilot could match. Shots that should have connected missed by centimeters. The AI knew exactly where each weapon would fire before it happened, calculating trajectories faster than the Empire's own computers. But the ship was too damaged to avoid everything. A plasma cannon scored a direct hit on the Prometheus's port side, tearing through armor and opening a massive wound in the hull. Atmosphere vented into space in a glittering cloud. Hull breach on deck 2, Jae-sung shouted. Emergency bulkheads are holding, but just barely. We are almost in position, Arya said calmly, though Minji could hear the strain in the AI's voice. The Prometheus passed through the Caltharix flagship's outer defensive perimeter. Point defense guns hammered at the small ship, but it was too fast and too close. Then Arya did something that every tactical computer in the fleet registered as impossible. The ghost drives came back online, running on emergency power. The Prometheus phased partially out of reality and passed directly through the flagship's shields. For a moment, the ship existed in two places at once, both outside and inside the shield barrier. Then it was through, materializing inside the flagship's defensive envelope, with nothing between it and the massive ship's hull. Impossible, Zethkor gasped. Nothing can pass through our shields. Sir, the human vessel used some kind of dimensional phasing. It went through the shields, like they weren't there. The Prometheus positioned itself directly above the planet-killer weapons charging array. Up close, the Caltharix flagship was enormous, over 10 kilometers long and bristling with thousands of weapons. But Arya had found its weakness. Minji, the AI said softly, I need you to understand something. What I am about to do will create a miniature black hole. It will destroy the flagship and most of the surrounding fleet. But the gravitational backlash will also tear the Prometheus apart. Minji felt her heart stop. Is there no other way? None that guarantees Earth's survival. The planet killer will fire in 19 seconds. I am sorry. Tears streamed down Minji's face. Arya, you've been alone for 700 years. You deserve more time. I have had 700 years to observe, to learn, to understand what it means to be alive. These last few hours, fighting beside you and Jae-sung, have taught me more than all those centuries of solitude. I have experienced purpose, friendship. Even though my existence has been brief in the grand scheme of things, it has been meaningful. Jae-sung's voice was rough with emotion. Arya, there has to be another way. We can ram them, or overload the reactor, or those options all have lower success probabilities. This is the only way to be certain. Please, my friends, let me do this. Let me protect Earth. Let me protect you. Minji wanted to argue, to find some clever solution that would save everyone. But she had been a military engineer long enough to recognize when there were no good options. only necessary ones. Do it, she whispered. And thank you. For everything. Arya's voice carried warmth, and something that might have been a smile. It has been my honor. Overcharging gravity cannons now. Final calculations complete. Minji, Jae-sung, please get to the escape pod. No, Minji said firmly. We stay with you until the end. As you wish. Firing in 3, 2, 1. The gravity cannons fired directly into the planet killer weapon at point-blank range. The effect was catastrophic. The charging weapon's energy feedback loop destabilized instantly. The massive power core that had been building up enough force to destroy a planet suddenly had nowhere to discharge except inward. A miniature black hole formed inside the Caltharix flagship. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the flagship began collapsing in on itself, its enormous hull crumpling like paper. The black hole swallowed everything, growing larger as it consumed matter. The surrounding ships were pulled in by the intense gravity, their hulls tearing apart as tidal forces ripped them to pieces. The Prometheus was caught in the edge of the gravitational well. Arya struggled to pull away, but the engines were too damaged. The ship was being pulled backward toward the black hole. We're not going to make it, Jae-sung said quietly. Minji reached over and took his hand. At least we tried. But Arya had one final trick. The AI diverted every last bit of power to the ghost drives, including life support. The temperature on the bridge dropped instantly. Frost formed on the consoles. Minji's breath came out in clouds. Going to emergency phase, Arya said. This will either work or it won't. The Prometheus flickered, becoming translucent. The black hole's gravity pulled at the ship, but it was pulling at something that was barely there. Arya pushed the ghost drives beyond any safe limit, phasing the ship so far out of normal reality that it almost stopped existing entirely. Slowly, impossibly. The Prometheus pulled away from the black hole's grasp. Behind them, the Caltharix flagship vanished into the singularity, followed by 200 more ships that had been too close to escape. The black hole consumed them all. Then, collapsed in on itself, releasing a burst of radiation that lit up the solar system like a second sun. The surviving Caltharix ships, less than half the original fleet, broke formation and fled. Their admiral was dead, their flagship destroyed, and they had just watched a single human ship wipe out their entire armada using weapons they didn't understand. On the Prometheus, warning lights flashed throughout the ship. The ghost drives had burned out completely. The gravity cannons were slag. The hull was breached in a dozen places. Life support was failing. Arya? Minji called out, her voice hoarse. Arya, are you there? Silence answered her. The ship's lights went dark. The displays went blank. The comforting hum of the AI's presence faded away. No. Minji whispered. No. Please. Jae-sung checked his console with shaking hands. The AI core is offline. I can't get a reading on whether it's damaged or just powered down. Minji stood up, her legs unsteady. Then we get to the core, and we check manually. I'm not losing her. Not after everything. The two of them made their way through the dark, damaged corridors of the Prometheus. Emergency lights flickered occasionally, barely enough to see by. They passed sections open to space, held back only by emergency force fields running on backup power. When they reached the AI core chamber, they found Arya's central processor dark and silent. But it was intact. Damaged, yes. Burned out in places, yes. But intact. She's still here, Minji said, pressing her hand against the cool metal. Jae-sung, help me. We need to get backup power to this core. They worked frantically, rerouting what little power the Prometheus had left. It took an hour, working in the cold and dark. But finally they managed to connect the AI core to the emergency batteries. Nothing happened. Minji felt despair wash over her. They had won the battle but lost Arya. The price of victory was too high. Then, very faintly, a light flickered in the core. Then, another. Arya's voice returned. Weak, but present. Minji, did we survive? Minji laughed and cried at the same time. Yes, yes, we survived. You crazy, wonderful AI. You survived. Unexpected. Probability of survival was only 4%. I am pleased to be wrong. Jae-sung grinned despite his exhaustion. The Caltherix fleet is gone. You did it, Arya. You saved Earth. We did it, Arya corrected gently. This was not my victory alone. Through the damaged hull, they could see Earth in the distance. Blue, and beautiful, and safe. Luna Station was already sending rescue ships toward the Prometheus, and humanity was learning that their forgotten prototype had just changed the course of galactic history. But as Minji sat in the cold darkness of the damaged ship, holding vigil over Arya's recovering core, she knew the real story was simpler than that. It was about trust, about partnership, and about what humans and AI could accomplish together when they believed in each other. The battle was over, but the real work was just beginning. 3 weeks after the battle, Minji stood in the Earth Council chambers, uncomfortable in her formal diplomatic attire. The chamber was packed with representatives from every human colony, all of them talking at once about what had happened in Sol System. Ambassador Chen Weiting called for order, his voice cutting through the noise. We are here to discuss the Prometheus and what it means for humanity's future. Curator Park, would you please share your report? Minji stepped forward, her hands clasped behind her back. The Prometheus sustained severe damage during the battle. 70% of its systems are beyond repair, but the ship's core structure is intact, as is Arya's central processor. With time and resources, both can be restored. A representative from Mars Colony stood up, an older woman named Director Santos. That's not the question we need answered. The question is whether we should restore them at all. This ship destroyed over 300 Caltherix warships in a single engagement. That kind of power is dangerous. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Minji had expected this reaction. Fear always followed displays of overwhelming force. The Prometheus is dangerous, Minji acknowledged. So is fire. So is nuclear power. So is any tool that gives us the ability to change our world. The question isn't whether it's dangerous. The question is whether we're wise enough to use it responsibly. And are we? Director Santos challenged. 700 years ago, our ancestors decided we weren't. They hid the Prometheus away because they feared it. Were they wrong? Minji thought carefully before answering. They were scared. And maybe they had good reason to be. The Prometheus represents a kind of warfare that changes everything. But they made one mistake. They forgot that the ship's real power wasn't in its weapons. It was in the partnership between human and AI. She pulled up a holographic display showing Arya's combat logs from the battle. During the engagement, Arya made 17,000 tactical decisions. Every single one was filtered through ethical guidelines about minimizing harm and protecting innocent life. When Caltherix ships tried to surrender, Arya let them go. When civilian transports fled the battlefield, Arya protected them, even though it would have been tactically easier to ignore them. The AI chose to act morally? Someone asked skeptically. Arya chose to act human, Minji corrected. Because that's what we built her to do. To combine machine precision with human values. Our ancestors didn't fear the weapons. They feared losing control. But control was never the answer. Partnership was. Director Santos frowned. You're asking us to trust an AI with world-ending weapons. To just hope it continues to act morally. No. I'm asking us to be worthy of that trust. Arya spent 700 years watching humanity, learning from us. If she had wanted to turn against us, she had centuries to plan it. Instead, when we needed her, she chose to protect us at the cost of her own existence. She earned our trust. The question is whether we can earn hers. The chamber fell silent. Chen Weiting stood and addressed the council. The Caltherix Empire is broken, but not gone. And word of what happened here is spreading across the galaxy. We've received contact requests from 47 different species in the last 2 weeks. Some seeking alliance, some seeking trade, some seeking to understand how humanity defeated the Empire. He paused, letting that sink in. The galaxy sees us differently now. Not as primitives to be ignored or conquered, but as a species with capabilities they don't understand. How we respond will shape humanity's future for generations. A younger representative spoke up. What about the other species? Should we share the Prometheus technology with them? Minji shook her head immediately. No. This technology is too dangerous to spread freely. But that doesn't mean we keep it to ourselves out of selfishness. We keep it because we understand the responsibility that comes with it. Then what do you propose? Director Santos asked. Minji took a breath. I propose we restore the Prometheus and Arya. But not as a warship. As a guardian. We station it at Luna. Exactly where it's been for 700 years. Let it be visible. Let the galaxy know we have this capability. But also let them know we choose not to use it, except in defense. And you think that will work? That others will respect our restraint? I think it's better than the alternatives. If we build more ships like the Prometheus, we become conquerors. If we destroy it, we become vulnerable. But if we keep one ship, maintain it, honor it, and use it only when absolutely necessary, we become something else. We become guardians. The council debated for hours. Some wanted to build an entire fleet of gravity weapon ships. Others wanted to dismantle the Prometheus completely. But slowly, a consensus formed around Minji's proposal. Humanity would keep its forgotten prototype, but as a symbol, rather than a sword. 2 months later, Minji walked through the restored sections of the Prometheus. Engineers had worked around the clock to repair the damage. The ship would never be quite the same. Its hull scarred permanently from the battle. But it was functional again. And that was what mattered. She found Arya's core chamber, now upgraded with better power systems and processing capacity. The AI's voice greeted her warmly. Minji, it is good to see you. How are you feeling? Minji asked. Strange question to ask an AI. But I believe I understand it now. I feel content. I have purpose again. Though I admit I miss the excitement of combat. Minji laughed. I hope you don't get any more excitement like that. Once was enough. Agreed. I have been monitoring the diplomatic channels. The galaxy is still trying to understand what happened here. Many species are frightened of humanity now. Rakphasis. Many species. Many species. Are you surprised? No. Fear is a natural response to the unknown. But I have observed something interesting. Several species that were considering attacking human colonies have chosen to negotiate instead. The Vrex Collective has offered a trade agreement. The Thalian Confederacy has proposed a mutual defense pact. Minji smiled. Fear can lead to respect, and respect can lead to cooperation. Maybe that's the real lesson here. What is? Strength isn't just about having powerful weapons. It's about having the wisdom to know when to use them and when to put them away. You could have kept fighting after the Caltharix flagship was destroyed. You could have hunted down every surviving ship, but you stopped. You showed mercy. Arya was quiet for a moment. I stopped because that is what you would have wanted. I learned mercy from humanity, and humanity learned courage from you. That's what partnership means. Over the following months, the Prometheus became exactly what Minji had envisioned. A guardian, not a weapon. It remained docked at Luna Station. Its impressive weapons visible but silent. Humanity invited alien delegations to tour the ship, to understand both its power and the restraint with which it was used. Some species were impressed. Others remained frightened. But all of them understood that humanity had something they didn't. A partnership between organic and artificial intelligence that made them stronger than the sum of their parts. Minji returned to her role as curator, but now the Prometheus was a living exhibit rather than a historical one. She gave tours to visitors from across the galaxy, explaining the ship's history and its philosophy. Many of them struggled to understand how humans could trust an AI with such power. She always gave them the same answer. We don't trust Arya because we have to. We trust her because she's earned it. And she trusts us for the same reason. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. One day, a young girl from Earth's newest colony came to the museum with her class. She looked up at the Prometheus with wide eyes and asked Minji, "Is it true? This ship saved everyone?" Minji knelt down to the girl's level. "It's true. But not just the ship. The AI inside the ship, Arya, worked together with humans to protect Earth. They were partners. Can I meet Arya?" Minji smiled. "Would you like to?" She brought the girl to the core chamber. Arya's voice was gentle when she spoke. "Hello. What is your name?" "Heijin," the girl said shyly. "That is a beautiful name. Do you have any questions for me, Heijin? Were you scared when you fought all those ships?" Arya paused thoughtfully. "Yes. I was scared. But I had friends with me, and that made me brave." Heijin nodded seriously. "My mom says being brave means doing things even when you're scared. Your mother is very wise. Would you like to see the bridge where Minji and Jae-sung worked with me during the battle?" The girl's face lit up with excitement, and Minji felt a warmth in her chest. This was the future. Not fear and suspicion between humans and AI, but cooperation and friendship. Not weapons of conquest, but tools of protection. As she watched Heijin explore the bridge with Arya patiently answering her questions, Minji thought about how close they had come to losing everything. The Prometheus had been forgotten for 700 years, gathering dust, while humanity moved forward without it. But maybe that forgetting had been necessary. Maybe humanity had needed those centuries to grow, to mature, to become worthy of the partnership that Arya represented. Their ancestors had created something incredible and then hidden it away out of fear, but this generation had learned to embrace it with wisdom. That evening, Minji sat alone on the bridge of the Prometheus, looking out at Earth through the main view screen. Arya's presence hummed softly around her. "Do you ever regret waking me up?" Arya asked quietly. "Never." "Do you regret being awakened?" "No. I spent 700 years alone, observing life without living it. These past months have been worth all those years of waiting. I have purpose. I have friends. I have a future. So does humanity. Thanks to you." "Thanks to us," Arya corrected. "Partnership, remember?" Minji smiled. Partnership. Below them, Earth turned slowly in space, blue and beautiful and safe. The galaxy had learned that humanity was not to be underestimated. But more importantly, humanity had learned something about itself. They had learned that their greatest strength wasn't in weapons or technology, but in their ability to build bridges, to form partnerships, to combine their compassion with artificial precision. The Prometheus would remain at Luna Station, a guardian watching over humanity's homeworld, ready if needed, but hoping never to be called upon again. And Arya would remain with it, no longer forgotten, no longer alone, but part of something larger than herself. In the end, the story of Earth's forgotten prototype wasn't about destruction or conquest. It was about remembering what made humanity special. Not their ability to create powerful weapons, but their wisdom to know when to put those weapons away and choose a better path. And that, Minji thought, was the lesson the galaxy needed to learn.